It's the #1 question I get from espresso beginners. What's the best grind setting for espresso? You know, getting grind size right is considered the most important variable in making good espresso and perhaps the most misunderstood by beginners. Hey espresso lovers, Mark here from Whole Latte Love. So the bad news, I can't tell you what grind setting to use, but there's good news. It's fairly easy to figure it out yourself, and I'm going to show you exactly how to do that by dialing in your grind size. So dialing in, what does it mean? It's the simple process of adjusting grind size to change how long it takes for espresso to extract. So you pull a shot, time it, and then adjust grind size to change the timing. The goal is 20 to 30 seconds for an espresso extraction. If yours takes less than 20 seconds, adjust grind a little finer. If it takes over 30 seconds, adjust grind a little coarser. That's all there is to it. Really simple, right? But there are some common yet easy to correct mistakes that can trip you up, so I'll show you how to avoid those by using the right tools and proper techniques. So coming up, I'll look at tools to help you out, a good coffee to start with, what grind size and how much coffee to start with, some grinding and machine tips, how to distribute, compress, or tamp your coffee, how to time and measure espresso, and some basics on flavor. Now, so you know, this is a basic dialing in video aimed at beginners. If you have questions or need some advice, use those comments and I'd be happy to help you out. For beginners, classic Italian-style bean blends are an excellent choice to start with. They're inexpensive, easy to work with, and have flavors most will be used to. I'm using our very own Crema Wave, a high-quality, 100% Arabica-based, modern American take on the classic style. Other crowd favorites in the classic blend category include Lavazza Super Crema and Maroma's Orfea. I'm using the ECM Mechanica Max machine, but any machine which uses standard non-pressurized filter baskets will do. My grinder is a Chiato E6P. It's a burr grinder with stepless adjustment, meaning grind size is continuously variable. With grinders, you get what you pay for, and heads up, blade grinders and grinders intended for doing drip coffee, they're not really appropriate for espresso. I have an Akaya Lunar scale, accurate to 1/10 of a gram for weighing ground coffee and my espresso. A scale really is required equipment. It makes dialing in so much easier, but if you don't have one, I'm going to show you how you can kind of get by until there's one in your toolkit. You'll need a tamper for compressing the ground coffee, or you can use a distributor and tamper combo, or an adjustable depth leveler, which distributes and compresses ground coffee and totally replaces the tamper. You'll want a shot pitcher for measuring your espresso. That's required if you're going to try and get by without a scale, and helpful if you are using a scale. You'll need a way to time your extractions. Many machines have built-in shot timers like mine. If yours doesn't, you can use a smartphone or other device. Start with a grind size that's fairly powdery, a consistency that's maybe a little finer than table salt. So load up some beans, run the grinder, and get your fingers on the coffee and feel it. You're going to want to pinch it. It should hold together and look something like this. When adjusting grind finer, your grinder should always be running. Go finer without the grinder running, and you'll run the risk of crushing beans between the burrs, and that could lock up the grinder and prevent it from running next time you turn it on. When changing grind size, it may take a few seconds for the results of your size change to make its way through the grinder, so keep that in mind. You may need to run a few seconds to purge out coffee at the previous grind size. When you make grind size changes, you want all your coffee to be at the same grind size when you load it in a portafilter. Once you've got the powdery consistency, it's time to load your portafilter, so remove it from the group where it's been staying nice and warm and wipe it dry. Grinders like the Chiato E6P I'm using grind directly into the portafilter. With others, you may be grinding into a dosing cup or bin and then loading your coffee from there. However you're dosing the portafilter, distribute the coffee as evenly as possible. As for the amount of ground coffee to use, that's going to be up to you. I strongly suggest, though, that you start out using a double shot filter basket. Traditional Italian double shots use 14 grams of ground coffee, but in most parts of the world, double shots now use 16 to 20 grams. Now, I'm going to go middle of the road and use 18 grams. If you have a scale, again, that's going to be easy to measure. If you don't have a scale, you should get one. It will make your life easier and your espresso better. So, can you get by without a scale? Well, kinda. So, here's what to do if you are currently scaleless. First, order a scale, and then until it arrives and you can do it right, slightly overfill the double shot basket. Using a finger, gently level it off even with the top without compressing the coffee. Now, again, this method is not perfect, but should get you within a gram or two of the same weight every time you fill. How you prep your coffee in the filter basket is very important. If it's not even, your brew water will flow through the coffee faster in the lower spots. Before tamping or compressing the coffee, gently shake or tap the portafilter to even out any mounds, or use a finger to gently swipe and level it out. Then tamp the coffee to compress it. Now, you really don't have to tamp all that hard. Just be mildly firm. The coffee, it's only going to compress so much. When you feel it not smushing down anymore, you're good to go. What's really important is tamping so the surface of the coffee is level, edge to edge, around the circumference of the filter basket, so brew water flows evenly through the coffee. Now, distributors and levelers can be used in addition to or as an alternative to freehand tamping. They will help you get a perfect, flat, even surface every time. You set them on top of the ground coffee and spin, usually in one direction and then the other. The leveling head distributes the coffee evenly, and some, like this adjustable depth Eureka model and the jack leveler I'm using here, compress the coffee enough so tamping is not needed. Now, not all levelers do that, and some users still tamp after leveling. With a tool like the jack, tamping isn't needed. It gets you a perfectly flat, uniform surface every time. Before attaching your portafilter, depending on your machine type, you may need to perform a flush to remove overheated brew water. Now, that's more commonly needed if you are using a single or heat exchange boiler machine, but any machine can be flushed. It's usually just for a few seconds, and what you're looking for is smooth water flow from the group. Turbulent flow or excessive steam indicates flash boiling of overheated water, and you don't want that blasting your coffee. If you see that, continue flushing just until water flows smooth. Again, that usually takes only a few seconds. If your machine is equipped with a flow control device, we're going to leave that out of the equation now and be sure to set it to the stock flow rate. For Proftech, ECM, and Bedzera machines, that's 1 1/4 turns open from the closed, no flow position. If you'd like to learn more about using flow control, see the video description for links to videos on that subject. So go ahead, attach your portafilter and start the pump. If your machine doesn't have a shot timer, start timing as soon as you turn the pump on. I'll run 3 shots side by side here. One's too fast, one's just right, and one too slow. I'll stop each as close as possible to 36 grams in the cup. The goal is to reach the final weight in a range of 20 to 30 seconds. If it takes more than 30 seconds to reach 36 grams, like the shot to the right, I'll adjust my grind a little coarser to speed up the extraction. If it took less than 20 seconds, like the shot to the left, I'll adjust the grind a little finer to slow it down. Now, to give you an idea of how different my grind settings were for these extractions, I was at 1.2 for the shot that was too fast, a setting of 0.8 for the dialed in just right shot, and 0.4 for the shot that was too slow. Now, even if you're using the same grinder as me, that doesn't at all mean you should be setting to 0.8. You have to dial in for your coffee and your other brewing variables. Now, after you pull a shot, always taste it, even if it was, way too fast or slow. Give it a stir and give it a taste. Now, it may not be all that good, but it's going to be an opportunity to get to know how different extraction timing affects flavor. And even if you dump most of it, you can consider it an educational opportunity so you don't feel bad like you were wasting coffee. Now, if you're going to try and fly blind without a scale, you're going to have to estimate when to cut your shot using liquid volume. And measuring volume is nowhere near as accurate as weight. While 1 milliliter of pure water weighs 1 gram, thanks metric system, 1 milliliter of espresso does not, especially if your coffee is making a lot of crema. For instance, the Crema Wave coffee I'm using is a copious crema producer, extracted at a 1-to-2 brew ratio from 18 grams in the portafilter to 36 grams in the cup finished volume. Including the crema, you're going to end up with about 60 milliliters. Now, not every coffee produces the same amount of crema, so you may have to do some big time guesstimation. If you have just a little crema, you'd cut the shot maybe around 40 to 50 milliliters, but it could be in the 55 to 65 milliliter range for big crema producers like the Crema Wave I'm using, as well as the Aromas and Lavazza bean blends I recommended as good starter coffees. And that, my friends, is why a scale is important. If your timing was outside the 20 to 30 second window, you will need to adjust your grind size. If it was too slow, again, adjust it a little coarser. Too fast, adjust a little finer. Keep in mind, very small changes in grind size can have a big impact on timing. So unless you had a gusher that finished in 10 seconds, or you had one that took over 40, or a choke shot that didn't flow at all, be patient and make very small changes to the grind size and note how much each change affects your timing. It's not unusual to pull 3 or 4 shots to dial in your grind size, and maybe more if you're totally new to espresso or working with new equipment. As you get used to how much your grind size changes affect your timing, it will become much easier to judge how much of a change to make. Dialing in your grind size really is easy once you get the hang of it. Now, remember to be as consistent as possible. So if you don't have a scale, please go get one and use the same coffee weight each time. Prep a nice, flat, even surface of coffee in your filter basket. The point is to make the grind size of the coffee the only variable that's changing as you dial in. Also, understand grind size is not set and forget. As other variables change, grind size will need adjustment. When you use new beans or your coffee ages, grind size will need to change. Same goes for new equipment like different filter baskets or changes in your preparation technique. A big one is changing the weight of coffee you use. Put more coffee in your portafilter and timing will slow down. Use less and it's going to speed up. And again, that's why you want to use a scale. Now, this video covers basic beginner level dialing in. The next step is using flavor. So develop your palate and taste your espresso, even when it's outside general timing guidelines. You might like it, you might hate it. Either way, it's going to be educational. Now, down there in the description, I've linked some excellent videos that dive deeper into espresso flavor. If you have questions on dialing in or anything coffee, use those comments and I'd be happy to get you a detailed answer. And if you love coffee and espresso as much as I do, be sure and subscribe to the channel. I'm Mark. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you back here soon for more of the best on everything coffee, brought to you by Whole Latte Love.